Hi everyone. I am in the airport flying back from San Antonio from the CLD conference. I wish you were there with me. I saw many of the topics that we have been talking about in class on poster presentations. As you all know, my area of interest is in vocabulary. Dr. Mason, Carlos, and I led a roundtable discussion on vocabulary interventions for diverse learners. I believe we had about 25 people attend. We ended up adding another table to our discussion group. From our roundtable discussion, I did learn that reading scores are a concern, and vocabulary is also a concern with educators, K through 12 educators, higher ed, and researchers. So since I was looking at reading achievement and vocabulary, I wanted to learn more about the effects that vocabulary had on those reading achievement scores. So are changes in vocabulary affecting test scores? And why are only 47% of students with disabilities passing the reading SOLs? Even though we are focusing on the players and people for this week, I wanted to shortly take a short revisit back to the timeline that I created last week. I'm amazed about the process and the changes from educational policy and how it affects literacy. From my understanding, the federal government had minimal involvement and left the educational policy making to state and local districts until 1965, when Lyndon B. Johnson became involved and began funding Head Start and Title I. Another learning experience for me that the timeline helped to clarify was the changes in reading from the English language arts framework and the teaching reading by reading that has now moved to more of Common Core standards and placing phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, comprehension, and oral reading fluency back into teacher and school level control. So because the process has changed then and moved from the federal level to more of the state and local level, which I would like to focus my studies for this project at those different state and school division levels. This slide highlights a few of the Virginia State Literacy Improvement Plan. So to look at some of the people and the players, I started with state representation, and then let's work towards our Virginia Department of Education and those players. I chose Virginia's Representative Bobby Scott. He has represented the 3rd Congressional District of Virginia since 1993. Congressman Scott has the distinction of being the first African American elected to Congress from the Commonwealth of Virginia since Reconstruction, and only the second African American elected to Congress in Virginia's history. Congressman Scott currently serves as the chairman of the Committee on Education and Labor. In 2015, he was one of the 4 primary authors of the Every Student Succeeds Act, which reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Education Act for the first time in 13 years and replaced the No Child Left Behind Act. Okay, another person or player that I wanted to focus on was our Virginia school board. So I reached out to different school board members and I had the opportunity to talk with Mrs. Diane Atkinson. I reached out to her looking at the different backgrounds of the school board members. I found that she was a former special education teacher, so I thought she might have some insight into special education or reading. After teaching special education, she attended law school, and she has been on the school board for 6 years. She is on the committee of school and division accountability. And an area that they are working on is to make changes in the graduation standards in order to earn a verified diploma, even when a student has not passed the standards of achievement test 3 times in a row. So after not passing the test or the SOLs, then the school and the school division can look at that student's body of work and determine if the student is able to meet the graduation requirements for a verified diploma. When I asked Mrs. Atkinson about reading, she stated that is an area that needs to be addressed. They need more research on the decline, and she feels if assessment changes, then classroom instruction needs to change. And then this, of course, goes back to higher education and teacher prep programs that need to make modifications. She also stated that when she is working for our students, she does not specifically focus on special education students, but looks at the student body as a whole. The assistant superintendent, VDOE, Samantha Marsh Hollins, I have reached out to her, but have not received a response. I have asked a few individuals that know her to help me to set up an appointment. Federally funded, taking federally funded centers to another slide. I also spoke with Dr. Pat Abrams. She is the Director of Instructional Services at VDOE. She was referred to me when I began contacting school board members. She is soon retiring, but spent over an hour discussing the Virginia Standard of Quality with me. And that Standard of Quality, which is the guiding document for Policy 101 of Virginia. When IDEA gets reauthorized, then the standards of quality will be updated also. When asked about reading, Dr. Abrams discussed the new reading screener that is being developed, PALS 2.0. She said that they are looking at reading in the areas of early intervention. They are working with Decoding Dyslexia and UVA and a few other organizations to develop this PALS 2.0. Another program she spoke to me about is LETTERS, Language Essentials for Teaching, Reading, and Spelling, LETRS, which I need to look into and learn more about. As far as other people and players, we need to remember our teachers, parents, and special interest groups such as CEC. And then, of course, the federally funded centers such as the IRIS Center and the National Center on Improving Literacy. The IRIS Center is a center that produces online modules that can be used for professional development for pre-service and in-service teachers. And another federally funded program is the National Center on Improving Literacy, or NCIL. NCIL works to increase the use of evidence-based approaches to screen, identify, and teach students with literacy-related disabilities. And moving on to politics, I identified our governor since he wrote Virginia is for Learners program. But I found out through my conversations with different people that this is not going to move forward due to some funding issues. And then, of course, I need to include with policy our federal policy, IDEA and ESEA, but trying to look more directly at policy that focuses more on literacy. I identified the Innovative Approaches to Literacy Program, or IAL, which operates under ESEA. The Literacy Improvement Program funds programs that support content and academic achievement. This document is the guidance document for the standards of accreditation regulations. I put the website there if you wanted to look and see more about the standards of accreditation. I added just a few reflections and thoughts about this since I have already begun talking to some of the people that I've been discussing. I found it interesting, or was able to find more information when talking to these individuals. A lot of times, since they're at the local level, I can just find basically their name or email address. So I think talking to them has given me a little more information and understanding about this process from policy to implementation in the classroom. But basically, my thought is that I only learned that I need to keep exploring and learning more. And these are my references. Thank you, guys.